Bill Maher thinks WNBA rookie and number 1 draft pick Caitlin Clark is being targeted by other players because she's not a lesbian and she's white.
Bill Maher recently pointed out what many have suspected about Caitlin Clark's decision to sign a contract in Europe. It wasn't just about basketball. According to Maher, Clark didn't fit into the WNBA's inner circle, so they made her life difficult. With 60% of the league being lesbian and 85% black, Clark, as Maher suggests, simply didn't check those boxes, which may have contributed to the struggles she faced in the league.
Women are catty. The league is very lesbian, and she's not. And there's race. There's a lot of going on there.
Instead of respecting Caitlin Clark's talent, they treated her like she was just there to generate cash. Sorry, WNBA, but maybe if you focused on the actual game instead of pushing a social agenda, you wouldn't be losing stars like Clark. Now everyone's upset because she's heading to Europe, where she'll be appreciated, and Clark doesn't owe them a thing.
I think it's natural for a megastar to come in. And people say, I'm kind of tired of hearing about it.
It's everything. It's women are catty. The league is very lesbian, and she's not. And there's race. There's a lot of going on here.
Bill Maher didn't just casually drop a bombshell about Caitlin Clark's contract. He made it crystal clear that her real struggle wasn't on the court, but in surviving a league that didn't want her there. Caitlin didn't pack her bags for Europe because of some minor contract issue or a shiny new deal. Let's be honest, this wasn't about money or convenience. She left because she had to. She was in survival mode. Maher exposed the chaos behind the scenes in the WNBA, where players and league officials seemed more focused on making Caitlin feel out of place. It didn't matter that she was the best thing to happen to the league in years. What mattered was that she didn't fit into the political narrative they were trying to push.
There's also a racial element to this. We can't deny that.
The storyline is simple. Caitlin Clark didn't fit their so-called ideal mold. She's white, she's straight, and in the WNBA, that apparently made her a target. The league that constantly talks about inclusivity, turns out they couldn't handle that one of their biggest stars didn't check off the boxes they were promoting. Instead of celebrating her record-breaking talent, it seemed like they were more interested in hiding her away, almost embarrassed that she was the one dominating headlines and driving ticket sales. And Maher, he didn't hold back in exposing that hypocrisy.
Show the tape if we're getting body checked. This is a game the other day, and that was pretty deliberate. And look at the other girl on her team coming over. See, if this was men, they defend each other on their same team. Men will fight from two teams, but when somebody checks you on who's on your team, you defend that guy.
Maher was quick to call out the WNBA's stunning hypocrisy. The same league constantly preaching about equality and fairness was the one turning its back on its biggest star because she didn't fit the right image. From day one, Caitlin was treated like an outsider. Snide comments, shady vibes from other players. It felt like high school drama, but with worse sneakers. Instead of celebrating her for basically saving the league, they acted like she was an inconvenience. And let's not even get into how ugly it really got.
The head, it's a flagrant one. What do we see?
Yeah, Angel Reese, it looks like she's trying to get the block shot. It's frustrating for Chicago fans because Isabel Harrison was right there to make a beautiful play.
Angel Reese's head slap moment didn't just get people talking because of the action itself. It was the whole vibe behind it that made everyone stop and think, wait, did she really just do that? During the 2024 regular season, when Reese squared up against Caitlin Clark, she took things to another level by slamming Caitlin in the head. The incident sparked immediate controversy, not only because of the physical act, but also due to the underlying tension and intensity between the two star players, adding fuel to an already heated rivalry.
It's just a part of basketball. It is what it is. She's trying to make a play on the ball and get the block. But yeah, it happens.
It's a basketball play. I can't control the refs. affected the game obviously a lot tonight. I mean, I'm always going for the ball, but y'all gonna play that clip, but
This wasn't your typical trash talk. It felt personal, like Reese was putting a stamp on it. Some fans even speculated that it was a calculated move, as if she was plotting Caitlin Clark's downfall right there on the court. Reese has always been a fiery, competitive player who thrives on stirring the pot. But this time it was different. This wasn't just about getting in someone's head. It was the kind of shade that gets under your skin, makes headlines, and leaves everyone wondering what was really going through her mind. It went beyond trash talk and became a defining moment in their rivalry.
Connecticut Sun forward Alyssa Thomas and Indiana Fever coach Christy Sides both called for the abusive comments toward W players to stop during their respective post-game news conferences following Game 2 on Wednesday night. Thomas went as far as to ask the league to step in to do something about the behavior.
in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable.
To make things even more dramatic, Dejonai Carrington threw herself into the mix, escalating tensions even further. During the first game of the 2024 WNBA playoffs between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Carrington pulled a move straight out of a Three Stooges skit, a blatant eye poke. But unlike in the old comedy routines, there were no laughs this time. Caitlin Clark ended up with a bruised eye and a whole lot of questions. The incident added yet another layer to the growing rivalry and raised concerns about how far players were willing to go in these intense matchups. The timing couldn't have been worse for Caitlin Clark. She was already having a nightmare game, shooting a dismal 4 of 17 from the field, and then Carrington hit her with an eye poke for good measure. Of course, Carrington was quick to brush it off as a total accident, but let's be real. The fans weren't exactly buying that excuse. An eye poke during a playoff game? People were side-eyeing that situation harder than Clark herself after the incident. Both Carrington and Clark denied any malicious intent. But you could practically hear the collective eye rolls from everyone watching. The whole thing just felt too convenient to ignore.
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan.
It's been a good season.
They cannot have fucked this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried.
And let's not even get started on the referees. Bill Maher made it clear what fans had been grumbling about all season. Caitlin Clark was getting absolutely hosed by the officiating. There were more phantom fouls called on her than you'd find in a bad ghost movie. Some of these calls were so bizarre that even the commentators, who usually sidestep controversial topics, were raising their eyebrows and questioning what the refs were doing. It wasn't just the fans losing it over these calls. Analysts began to point out that Clark was getting fouled left and right, while her opponents seemed to have some kind of immunity card. The WNBA wasn't just standing by and letting it happen. They were part of the problem.
I have honestly never seen a company fumble the bag so hard like the WNBA fumbled Caitlin Clark.
The whole racial controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark and her fan base has become a drama that just won't quit. And trust me, it's not just the fans keeping this fire burning. WNBA players like Angel Reese and Alyssa Thomas have been throwing gasoline on it too. Reese, who's had a beef with Clark since their college days, has been vocal about it. She took to social media and her podcast, Unapologetically Angel, to air it all out, mentioning that she's been bombarded with racist comments and threats, many of which, according to her, came from Clark's fans. This has only intensified the ongoing tensions and drama between the two players and their respective supporters.
I know the mainstream media wants us to believe that the WNBA is surging in popularity. I know analysts like Monica McDougal at ESPN. They want us to recognize elite layup missers and failed dunkers. But what Casey has been telling you guys all season, it has been true. What I have said countless times over the past few months, it is finally being proven without a shadow of a doubt. Caitlin Clark is a megastar. Caitlin Clark is a box office draw, while the rest of the WNBA it is nothing but a polished turd.
She didn't hold back on calling them out either. Just when you thought things couldn't get more intense, Alyssa Thomas tossed her hat into the ring as well. Thomas wasn't shy about speaking up after the 2024 playoff series where her Connecticut Sun faced Clark's Indiana Fever. She claimed that she experienced more racism in that one season than in her entire 11-year career. So yeah, the pot wasn't just stirred, it was boiling over. But unfortunately, many people dismissed her claims because she's loved for her positivity. This has only added to the complexity of the situation as the narrative continues to unfold. Thomas went so far as to say that the playoff series against Clark's team was a racial battleground for her, which prompted the WNBA to issue a statement condemning racism from fans. But honestly, the damage was already done. The public's emotional response was fueled even further, and guess who found herself right in the middle of it all? That's right, Caitlin Clark. She had become the face of the league thanks to her record-breaking rookie season, but now her supporters were being labeled as racists. The shift in narrative put her in an incredibly tough position, complicating her status as a celebrated star in the league.
Caitlin Clark has just been named the 2024 Rookie of the Year. Clark's rookie season, it was historic. She had the most points in a rookie campaign, the most assists in any season ever, and she even messed around and got a pair of triple-doubles, something no other rookie has ever done.
Things got so out of hand that even Clark herself had to address it. After her team was eliminated from the playoffs, she stepped up during a press conference to try to clean up the mess. She made it clear that the hateful comments weren't coming from her true fans, calling them trolls. Clark attempted to steer the conversation back to the positives: the game, the league, and the fans who weren't busy stirring up hate. But the social media beast had already latched onto the narrative and wasn't about to let go. The damage was done, and no matter what Clark said, she and her fan base were already being painted with a broad, ugly brush.
Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. I don't think nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful, hateful comments and threats. Those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization, the WNBA. But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years or whether they're new fans in our league.
Of course, Bill Maher wasn't about to sit on the sidelines and stay quiet about this. He jumped right into the conversation. He pointed out how these racial allegations had essentially poisoned the well for Caitlin Clark. Being linked to a racist fan base wasn't just some online gossip. It became her reality, affecting her relationships in the locker room, on the court, and probably even at the local grocery store. Maher was quick to expose the fact that Reese and Thomas, two major players themselves, had turned what should have been a classic sports rivalry into something much messier, an all-out racial and political battleground. He didn't tiptoe around it either. He flat out called the accusations flimsy at best. Yet, somehow, those baseless claims managed to get woven into the very fabric of the WNBA's inner workings.
Caitlin is going to have an incredible career. She will have an opportunity to go to the Olympics. She will have an opportunity to develop as a player. I think she is going to be one of the greatest players that the game has ever seen.
And really, can you blame her? When Europe came knocking with an offer that didn't come with a side of controversy, it must have felt like a no-brainer. They valued her for her basketball skills, not for how she fit into some social media narrative. This wasn't just about finding a new team or a new paycheck for Clark, it was about sanity. The WNBA had gone so far off the rails that it was hard to even recognize the game anymore. A league that should have been focused on celebrating the sport had become tangled up in issues that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And for Clark, it was just too much.
Commissioner of the WNBA has got to take control of this.
Maher's take on the whole situation couldn't have been clearer. This wasn't just a Caitlin Clark problem. It was a WNBA problem. The league, which should have been rolling out the red carpet for one of its biggest stars, instead allowed toxic narratives to take over. The racial allegations, the finger-pointing, the absolute chaos. All of it got in the way of what should have been a success story for both Clark and the league. In the end, that's why Clark had no choice but to leave. Europe offered her what the WNBA couldn't, a chance to simply play the game without all the extra baggage.